All right, it is 6:30. We'll go ahead and call the tax rate hearing to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Okay, Tim.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and we will hold the tax rate.
Good evening, everyone. Go ahead. We're going to do a little, before we get into the tax rate figures, we're going to do a little background on school district funding and just remind everyone that there are 4 funds that are required school districts use. Fund 1 is the incidental fund. Fund 2 is the special revenue or teachers fund. Fund 3 is the debt service fund, and Fund 4 is capital projects fund. Skip Fund 1 for a minute. We talk about Fund 2. That's where we pay teachers' salaries and benefits. And we always transfer money from Fund 1 to Fund 2 as needed, and then that fund is zeroed out at the end of each month. The debt service fund is basically paying back the district's debts. Our most recent bond issue was $20 million bond issue, so that's in there as well. That's been 44 cents for a few years now. And that is only for paying back those long-term obligation bonds. The Capital Projects Fund is for renovating any type of facilities that we have, building facilities, updating facilities. All of that comes out of the Capital Projects Fund. Anything that doesn't fit in those 3 comes out of Fund 1. So it's supplies and all the day-to-day items that teachers and students need. Yeah, I'm ready. We posted legal notice on the district website, at district office, at each of our 4 school buildings, at the courthouse, at City Hall, and the community center, and that meets our statutory requirement for notifying the public. Go back 1 second. On the right there, you will see the entire legal notice. I'm going to break it up so it's a little more digestible and we can see the numbers a little better. So if you go forward 1, you can see that our assessed valuation from 23-24 to 24-25, real estate. I have this document. Real estate is up just over 13 million, almost 13.5 million. Personal property is up 6 million. Combined real estate and personal property is up a total of 19 million. For assessed value, for assessed valuation, we go from 867 to 877, 867 million to 877 million. That's up 19.4 million. And then our new construction and improvements held steady. We were at 9.6 million last year. We went up to 9.8 million this year. So before we move forward, are there any questions about those numbers? That's just assessed valuation information that we received. Okay. And so if we break it down and we look at from the 23-24 school year to the 24-25 school year and assume that we have 100% collection rate, which we never have, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We assume 100% collection rate based on the rate last year of 3.4050. You can see how those numbers are divided between the 4 funds. This year, the state auditor's office gave us our information back and told us that we needed to go up 0.0005, which is a 20th of a penny. And you can see how those numbers relate then as you multiply them out per $100. So last year, it was a 25.2 million collection at 100%, and this year it's 25.8 million for the incidental fund. For the debt service fund, it was 3.8 last year. It's 3.9 this year. And for capital projects, that 5 cents in there, 433,000 last year and 443,000 this year. Okay. And so if we look at the history of what these individual funds look like, I like looking at it like this because it just gives us a historical framework for where we've been and how we've done business. General Fund 1 in 2021 was 2.9017, and for this school year we're proposing that it's 2.9155. Fund 2 Teachers Fund has been 0. Fund 3 Debt Service has been 44 cents for those 4 years, and Fund 4, we've put 5 cents in there every year just to cover some of those facilities improvements, and we kind of earmark that money for our HVAC updates, our roofing updates. So the total tax rate is, I'm sorry, Lance, go ahead, it changes. So now we're down at the bottom, and you can see in 2021, we decreased from the prior year 0.0646. The next year we were up 0.01. The next year we were up 0.0033. And this year we're proposing that it increases 0.0005. Our tax rate ceiling for debt service, we've rolled it back these last 3 years. We're going to talk about a prepayment in open session. We're going to have Courtney Wegman zoom in and kind of talk to us about what that means. You do a prepayment for several reasons. We're going to be saving about $94,000 in interest doing this prepayment of $1.1 million. It allows you to stay at 44 cents debt service levy rather than reduce it. But it also puts the district in a good position moving forward should we need additional facilities updated and increases our bonding capacity. So we're proposing that we do a voluntary rollback instead of 0.5068. We roll that back to 44 cents, and that will be saving the taxpayers 0.0668. So we are going up 0.0005 in our operating levy, but we are proposing that we roll this back. And I spoke with LJ Hart and Courtney Wegman at length, and we will be well within our means to pay off our debt for this upcoming school year, maintaining that 44 cents. Okay, so normally when I talk to superintendents about collection rate, they're at 94, 95, 96% collection rate. And traditionally, we planned on we're a little more conservative, we planned on about a 92% collection rate. This is what it's been the last 3 years. I put the projected collection rate on there in 22, that was 64%. That was in red. We came in at 63%. So then the following year, I guessed 63%, and we came in at 64%. So this year, I'm going back up to 64% collection rate with the hopes that we'll get there again. And you can see our actual tax revenue. Now, if you remember back to the numbers we just looked at, the $25 million at 100%, 17.9 is what we collected in 22, 18.9 is what we collected in 23. And should it come in at 64% again this year, it will be 19.3. So why is it 63 and 64%? We have several entities in our community going through a tax protest currently, and we have worked hard with the county collector and the assessor to determine what portion of those monies in escrow were earmarked for St. Genevieve R2. And this table shows you each year, starting in 2021 with Lafarge Wholesome. Mississippi Lime came on in 2022, and in 2023, Wawas North America. And so for those 3 years, you're looking at 8.2, 9.3, 9.4 for a total of $27.1 million sitting in escrow. We're not able to use that for facilities updates, student use, supporting students, supporting teachers. So until this, and I don't have 24 numbers yet, those numbers are there, but they've been quite busy recently. So as soon as we get those numbers, we'll add them to the table, and those numbers will go up. So there are several items that we have identified in our facilities plan that we put on hold because the money isn't available to do it. Our community supported us in the $20 million bond issue, and we had to continue our debt service. I think this board would love to reduce our levy as much as possible if these monies were available. So I think it's important for everybody to know. why we're making the decisions we're making, and the limitations that the district has because of these tax protests. So we do this every year just to give everyone a resource, whether you're residential or you are a commercial owner or you have agricultural property. I have 3 different documents there. We're going to look at residential here and just talk about a property value of $100,000. That assessment rate's 19%. So that's $19,000. And if you pay 3.4055, our proposed rate for this school year, that would be, is that 640, you're going the wrong way, Lance. $647, which is an increase of 10 cents over last year. And so that's a really good resource, and you can look to see how is this going to affect me with my $100,000 house or my $200,000 house? What's that going to do to my tax bill? And then if you look at commercial, it does the same thing. Those property values are a little different because commercial property can be up there quite a bit. So, $100,000 commercial property is 6 cents. And then if we look at agricultural, $100,000, I was doing agricultural at 6 cents, I think.
Yeah,
I think you put it back. So those documents are there. Should anybody be interested in them, they'll be on our website and available. And then if we pull up this last document, this just kind of shows us a comparison between last year and this year. What are we actually receiving? Scroll down. So I've got a whole bunch of numbers on here. If we just focus on those 3 areas, 100% collection rate, assume a 64% collection rate, and then on the right there, assume a 64% collection rate at last year's tax rate. And then below that, you'll see 3.4055 tax rate. I can't read that number. $651,000. The top.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there you go. Okay, thanks. And then at last year's tax rate, if you scroll back over, we're really going to have to rearrange this. That would be $649,000. So the number below that is actually what we're yielding because of that 0.0005 increase, and that's $2,839. So I think at this time, if anyone has any, or is that your job, Mr. Pope?
Maybe I still. You're fine. Does anyone have any questions, either on the board or in the audience? No? All right. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the tax rate hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we will move to the open session at 6:43.
Get out of here. Okay, so now we're back. Are you just going to go to
Yep.
the pledge immediately?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ready?
Mhm.
And we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh.
Oh, that was almost bad. Next on the agenda are the Board of Education norms, which are available for the public to read. And the next item is the MSBA monthly report.
Welcome to the August edition of the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report. We begin by looking forward to the start of a new school year in Missouri. Our public schools will start the new year this month with great anticipation, but in an environment that continues to be challenging. One of these challenges is the growing influence of artificial intelligence in education. AI technology is rapidly transforming the way students learn, teachers instruct, and schools operate. To help with understanding these issues, MSBA has launched the AI Toolkit for K-12 Education. Mark Henderson, MSBA's Director of Digital Initiatives, created the toolkit and explains its intent.
This is a 60-plus page guide, comprehensive guide to all things regarding AI in the education world. We have sections about understanding AI, very intro basics for anyone who doesn't know much about it. We have a section on safety, a section on ethics. We have a section on policy for districts. We have all kinds of tools in there and resources. We try to keep it updated constantly with new information, weed out the old stuff. So this is an active living document that you can go to and reference constantly.
In addition to the toolkit, MSBA is holding an AI in Education Symposium Thursday, October 17th in Kansas City. Mark says the event has something for everyone, regardless of your AI expertise or experience level.
Education is going to be impacted in huge ways by AI. It already is in so many different ways. So we don't have time to waste before we dive into this. Districts need to take it seriously now. They need to look into it. They need to set policies in place, have discussions on what they're going to allow and not allow. On Thursday, October 17th, the day before our annual conference kicks off, we're going to have an AI in Education Symposium. And this is all about diving into those important topics regarding AI. And it's open to superintendents, board members, IT professionals, librarians, teachers. We're going to have topics that address all the important things that these folks need to know. And we're going to have keynote speakers brought in. We're going to have concurrent sessions so you can really focus on the topics that you want to talk about. And then that important Q&A time at the end so that you'll be able to decide how this impacts your district and help sort of develop plans and questions to customize it to your needs.
In addition to the AI in Education Symposium, registration is now open for the 2024 MSBA Annual Conference in cooperation with the Missouri Association of School Administrators and the Missouri Association of School Business Officials, to be held October 17th through the 19th in Kansas City. The event will once again feature numerous breakout sessions and workshops, many presented by school leaders from districts throughout the state, the Education Expo, and another great lineup of general session speakers. And nominations for the Carter D. Ward Excellence in Advocacy Award are being accepted now through September 6th. The award is presented to a local board member who excels at advocating for public education. Visit the MSBA website for more information. Lastly, on July 17th, Mike Reed, the esteemed leader of MSBA's Advocacy Department, passed away, leaving behind a remarkable legacy of dedication and service to public education and the children of Missouri. Mike Reed was a towering figure in the realm of education advocacy, known at the Capitol and throughout the state for his relentless work on behalf of public school children. In addition to his tireless advocacy for public schools, Mike wholeheartedly believed in the power of school board members and was constantly appreciative of their service, advocacy, and leadership.
You all are best advocates that we have. And I appreciate all of the hard work that our members do in letting representatives know how their actions in Jefferson City affect the students. Children are the backbone of this country, and if we're going to grow, we have to do what's best for kids in the state of Missouri. The most important and the best lobbying effects that we have are our members who are elected officials talking to the members of the General Assembly who are also elected officials.
We represent boards, and who do boards represent? Boards represent the taxpayers and making sure that the children of the state of Missouri get a proper education. You are the stewards of the taxpayers' money and also the stewards of their children's education, to which we appreciate.
Mike Reed, thanks for being with us, and thanks for all your good work and lobbying on behalf of public education down in Jefferson City.
It's fun because, you know, in the end, we work for the kids, and we work for a very good group of elected officials, and it's enjoyable.
Thank you.
Mike Reed was well liked by both Democrats and Republicans in the state capitol, so he was a great man.
He was a fighter. All right, next on the agenda is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I need to abstain, please.
Oh,
Sorry, Jerry.
that's okay.
Any other opposition or abstention?
Okay, Josh down is abstain, and everyone else,
Next part's reading, so I'm just gonna move on. Next on the agenda, we have public participation. Board members and administrators will listen to concerns and respond when appropriate by mail or telephone at a later date. In order to speak during public participation, a public comment form must be filled out and submitted to the board president prior to the beginning of the meeting. Per policy BDDH-1, public participation at board meetings, the following rules will apply to the public comment portion of the meeting. The public comment period will not exceed 15 minutes. No individual will be permitted to speak more than once during this period. Each speaker will be allotted no more than 5 minutes. Discussion will be limited to items on the posted agenda. All speakers must provide their name and address prior to speaking. If there is insufficient time for everyone to speak, the board will encourage participants to submit their questions in writing or utilize the process for putting the item on agenda. I do have 3 public comment cards. First up, I have Shay Coleman. Did you guys all want to speak about the same topic together? So I have Shay Coleman, Caden Hook, and Carly Bosler. Welcome. I don't know who he belongs to, but just kidding, Eric. I'm sorry.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today. We're here on behalf of our classmates and their parents to discuss the proposed change to our graduation date. We believe that moving our graduation a week later could have a significant negative impact on students, their families, and our school community. To us, graduation symbolizes the completion of years filled with dedication, resilience, and personal development, which strongly unites our class. When talking about the upcoming school year, the number one thing we have said is, but hey, at least graduation is early this year. The senior class has consistently let the positivity of graduating early spread throughout the halls. It's a day we've all eagerly anticipated, with many families organizing their schedules around it. Changing the date now would cause a disruption to many plans regarding our students and parents. Numerous families have already made travel arrangements and scheduled time off from work. Students who go straight out of high school have numerous commitments to obligations based on the initial date. For some, altering these arrangements would pose difficulties and expenses. Shifting the date would add a strain on them during what should be a happy occasion and not a stressful one. We have already heard of parents encouraging their children to graduate early due to this issue. Not only would this harm our education, it would harm our sports program and the attendance of St. Genevieve High School, which seems to be the issue at hand. The lack of transparency between the administration, the parents, the students, the faculty, and the community has been one of the main reasons this issue has been blown out of proportion. When students ask about this issue, officials have not been able to inform us adequately. Our school's motto is family, tradition, and excellence. It would be a shame to see a portion of that family be unable to attend this tradition due to families being ill-informed. According to Senate Bill 727, the required amount of days is being changed to 147 days for schools with a 5-day school week. Our understanding is that no students will be going the correct amount of days, and this is another big confusion for the concerned parents and students. Changing the course of our graduation doesn't just affect our school schedule, it impacts students, families, and the community who have graduation arrangements closely tied to the initial date. Some of the students have work, internships, or college orientations starting after graduation. A postponement would disrupt these obligations. Many families have vacations or celebrations planned based on the initial graduation date. Shifting this significant occasion would set off a chain reaction for both students and faculty. It's challenging for us to comprehend why such a significant decision is being contemplated without deep explanation. We've been educated on the significance of making choices rooted in thinking and the benefits of education. In this scenario, it appears that the negative impact on students, families, and the wider school community greatly surpasses any advantages. Graduation holds importance in our lives, making it time for us to honor not only our academic accomplishments, but also the bonds that we have created, the obstacles we've surmounted, and the path ahead. Altering the date at this time may impose difficult decisions on certain students. We understand everyone here is only trying to do their best for our school. We do not want any negative effects that fall back on our school from this decision. Thank you for your time and consideration to speak on this topic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the report of the superintendent.
Well, good evening again, everyone. Thank you, young ones, for coming in and expressing your opinion. We appreciate it. You have some notes of appreciation. Well, one note, I believe, in your board packet of appreciation. And then we're on to back to school professional development, which I'm going to turn over to Dr. McClark.
Yes. So to highlight our professional development, we had our new teacher, as we do every year, PD, for 3 days, and then they have a day that they're able, actually I think 2 days, they're able to go into the classrooms and work. Our focus again was initiating our new hires into who are we as St. Genevieve School District, developing a growth mindset. Every year when we hire new teachers, the response is it's a lot to take in, and we know that, and so just telling them, take in what you can, just know it's a journey, you're going to get better, 1% better every day. And this year we've kind of started to splinter off a little bit into individualized learning pathways. We had 3 different groups split up this year. And so Dr. Mercer and Ms. Huffman were kind enough to help me out and take one group that we call our experienced new teachers, and they stayed behind, and they actually did some of the module learning from our guest speaker, and so learned a little bit about the brain science. And then our brand new teachers went to the beginning teacher assistance program, which is a little bit different and new from what we've done in years past. We have utilized our GoCSD membership, and they developed a cohort on this side of the state. Typically, a lot of their in-person offerings are over on the west side of the state. So we'll be able to be part of a cohort that will do virtual learning with Republic and that side of the state, but we were able to meet in person with others from Arcadia Valley, Jackson, I think Oak Ridge was there as well. And so that was an opportunity to kind of meet everybody's needs. And then we had another group that was our tiered room support and our behavior supports, and they were able to kind of branch off and do their learning with Dr. Drury and some others and Jessica Jordan from the RPDC and talk about how do we set up the program, what are some interventions that we can use in place, and develop their skills there. So that was well received, and we'll continue to meet throughout the year, and we'll have those different groups as well as our brand new teachers from last year will be year 2, and they will also have after school meetings as well. Back to school PD, it was August 12th, 13th, and 15th. I would say the initial surveys are probably the best that I've seen. So I was really excited for our professional development committee. The feedback was really good. The highlights of the feedback were they really enjoyed the guest speakers. They enjoyed the carousels and some of the freedom that came with that. They enjoyed being able to at least the attempt to give people what they need. Now, some of the feedback is always, well, I wish you had got a little more early childhood or a little bit more AP course material. So we're always working to address the needs of the individuals. We're also able to get in our videos for our support staff as well for most of them. I think on September we'll have a few more finishing up. I think our paras have 4 more videos still. And so we also received feedback on that. And one one idea that we're kind of floating around is like looking at the calendar and how can we offset that? Because I think one of the big requests from parents is how can we get more time with our teachers before we start the year, which is a valid request. Some of them are brand new and some of the teachers are brand new. So having that time before students actually step in and talk about like, well, how do we support that student day one makes a lot of sense. But we also have to balance some of the mandates and some of the preparations to make sure that we're covered for legal purposes as well. Some of our focus were literacy, competency-based learning was a huge piece of that, and that will be an ongoing piece, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. Collaboration, any chance we have to offer that collaboration, and that's always requested. Can we have more of that? Can we have a little bit more time to work in our rooms together and develop effective lesson plans? Behavior relationships, I would say walking around in the carousels, the behavior sessions were standing room only. And then safety, of course, we were able to bring in CES and they're able to run some of our safety carousels along with our staff. I definitely could have done it without the people here. We were able to run 7 different breakouts so people could get a quick snapshot, look at what team am I on, and talk about Crisis Go. We still have a lot of questions and but it gets that conversation going rather than, you guys know what to do, we're moving on. So that was effective as well. Coming up on September 30th, we will have our planned PD. We have a meeting with the PDC on the 5th, and we'll kind of go over that, and we'll review the survey and see if there's any adjustments we need to make for the upcoming PD and start to talk even about like next year, because I think one of the advantages we had this year was kind of to start that conversation about this year, about this time last year, so we could start to try to come up with a more cohesive, this is where we're moving towards throughout the year. So our tentative plan is for early childhood through 5th grade to meet with Dr. Westfall. She was the assistant superintendent in Liberty, and she wrote a book called Learner Agency. Our admin team has met with her already, and she's going to come back through that grant and help kind of lead some of the conversations. And then in the afternoon, the EC through 5th will have building PD because unfortunately at the beginning they didn't have as much opportunity to do that. So this will be their day to kind of have that time to have like specific safety meetings, building topics, or whatever they need for the other half of the day. 6th through 12th, their focus is going to be on real world learning. We have Lee Summit coming in to present for an hour and a half to talk about their real world learning and kind of gain some ideas. Mr. Schnabel had heard them present and so they did a fantastic job kind of making it seem realistic for even early childhood up. Like how can we take that and just apply it to one unit in our class? Washington is also going to come in and they're going to talk about their program Connect Washington, and it aligns with some of the work that we did, I failed to mention, on the 13th with our Portrait of a Graduate and talking about how do we develop students that have the skills, dispositions, and knowledge that we believe are going to make them successful no matter what pathway they're going. And at the end of the day, the speaker that we brought in kind of alluded to, it's not up to just the teachers, it's not up to just the school or even just the parents. It's going to take a community to be able to give those opportunities. And so that's really kind of what their program is about, is just finding ways to partner with other entities. Everyone around here is heavily invested, and so it's becoming more knowledgeable from a practitioner standpoint in the school of what do you do, what do you need, what do you have to offer, and then how can we partner and make that something that goes with what students are learning, and how do we make that's something that's real world and actually something that's applicable to some of the standards that seem like, oh, you're just making me learn this. In the afternoon, then they would also meet with Dr. Westfall as well. And we do have support staff for that day as well. And like I mentioned, some of our pairs will be able to finish their videos Our maintenance have finished their videos, so they will be able to kind of work. And one of their requests was, can we look at like summertime and do the videos? That way when teachers are rolling in with their work orders and requests. So Mr. Woodard, I told him, definitely remind me when we get closer to the summer, and let's work on that. And then the cafeteria is the same way. We got all of our videos in, but they have deliveries and they need to get ready for the school year. So we've talked about like the possibility of like looking at the calendar, and I don't want to spring it on Dr. Taylor, but we've talked about like looking at like, well, what days are we asking them to come in, and is it a possibility to be more flexible with that? Because you can't move the videos back to January. It doesn't make sense to have those. But those are some of the topics and ideas. Like I said, overall, the feedback was great. I think the biggest ones were they love the keynote, but some people kind of miss the motivational speaker, the rah-rah. So we'll probably next year look for somebody that's going to come in and remind them, like, this is why we're here. Yeah. Do you have any questions for me? I don't know if that's what I'm supposed to ask, but.
Sure.
Sorry.
I enjoyed the speaker immensely, and I know Mr. Gettinger and Mrs. Diesel, you all came to that evening presentation.
It was really good.
Did you come too? Yeah. He brings, I mean, where, I missed. I was involved in the presentation, I guess. He's coming from an academic standpoint, and when you're a professor, everything's black and white. And why aren't we doing this? Because it's the right thing, and the research says this. But how to get that to apply is a little more difficult in our world. But I really enjoyed them. So every year we have a federal requirement that we are evaluated and given an annual determination of IDEA. And the 10 categories are there: audit findings, timely, accurate data, grad rate, dropout rate, assessment participation, assessment proficiency, disproportionality, initial evaluation timelines, Part C to Part B transition timelines, and secondary transition planning. This year we received a 4 out of 4. We received a 4 out of 4 last year. There was one little score in there that we were a little worried about last year. That's back up to a 4 this year. So we were very happy about that determination. Says a lot about our SPED team, our SPED teachers. They do a fantastic job. And then you will find a link to handbooks for parent and student handbooks. Those are on our website as well. We provide those to you for your reference and really to let parents know that they're on our website and accessible to them as well. So.
Thank you, sir. We move on to unfinished business, and we have a Prop SG update.
So we are still waiting for the elevator to pass inspection. They wanted us to put in an air conditioner for our mechanical room, so we put in an air conditioner for our mechanical room. And when it gets to this point, you're kind of at the mercy of the elevator inspectors. So we did that. The electricians came in and wired everything up, and Matt Pigg, our construction manager on site, asked them specific questions. They said, yeah, we're all good. The inspector came back, and a gauge of wire is too small, and there are some hookups that need to be redone. So the electricians were called again, and they are in the process of updating that electrical so that we can once and finally have a rider on the elevator. But I have been in that facility, and it's just fantastic. You forget how nice it is. It's another, it feels, I was telling Amy Meyer last week when I was in there, when you walk in, it's got a different feel than the middle school. The middle school is a little more echoey, and this is a little more chill. It fits a counseling suite. So it's really nice. Let me make sure I covered everything. Yes. Early childhood. Boy, there's a lot going on out there. I know we had an opportunity to go out there and check things out. I don't remember if it was last month or the month before. And we've got a picture here. We've got a picture here of when you're standing looking down the hallway of the 10 classrooms. That's whenever we were visiting other early childhood centers, we went to, I believe it was Orchard Farm, and they had a raised ceiling, wide hallway, and I got a feeling when I was there. And it was an exciting early childhood feeling. And when you stand in our hallway, you get that same feeling. I got that same feeling. It's exciting. It gets further and further every day. They're getting some drywall in. Lance, if you go ahead a little bit, got some pictures. Masonry work is getting completed. There's that hallway on the right side. That there's going to be a lot of fun going on in that hallway. And then there, I think Bailey, you went out to Highway 61 to get that picture. Yeah, so you're looking down over. So that's exciting. St. John Elementary, you can drive by at any point in time and see what's going on with St. John Elementary. I've been out there quite a bit the first week and 2 days of school, checking on bus drop-off, bus pickup, just general traffic flow. Where are our kinks? What do we need to work out? There's been some subcontractors parking on the outside of the fence, when buses are here trying to drop them off, but we're working through that. I know they're working hard at the elementary to try and wrangle those kids and get it. Seems like they picked it up pretty quick. They're coming in, going through the cafeteria and getting where they need to be. They've adjusted on the fly. Mrs. Gegg, you have anything?
No, I think just every day we're working through with parents different scenarios of like, what do we do in this or what do we do in that? And I was telling someone else that Jenny Kirchner is trying to do the little gyms and wants to figure out how to bring the Bloomfield kids in. And I was like, great question. So I spent an hour a day trying to figure out how they're going to get in our building. But other than that, we're working through it.
Yeah. And you're going to see that's a aerial view looking down. It's a little more impressive when you get down on ground level and see that wall going up quickly. That's going to be our gymnasium space. And they're making good progress on it.
Dr. Taylor or Mrs. Day, how's the parking going for the faculty and John for the high schoolers and Dr. Boyd?
Bailey went out and took pictures to document the fact that we have 20 plus parking places open on a daily basis.
I actually talked about that. I think we're going to have a spot for our subs to actually park when they come, and I think he and I have worked out a plan. We're going to be able to hold Grandparents' Day with a little collaboration and using their cafeteria, but I think we're going to have space to be able to bring them in.
And that's without the 16 additional spots up by the maintenance.
Yeah.
Oh, that's without.
There's plenty of parking out front.
Good. So everyone was worried about that. That's great.
Yeah. And it looks really, really good. Bowman Construction did a good job on that wall. So we're really happy about that. And then some other projects we have going on. You can see the dragon trying to break out of the cage there. Kinsey Wolf did a fantastic job on that drawing, and I know Kristen Huffman coordinated with her and kind of spearheaded that. That looks fantastic. I've had several patrons stop me and talk about how great that looks. You can see the girls' locker room there on the right, and then down in the bottom right, you see the mirror with the shelf. And then Davey took the time to install, it's like a holster for hair dryers, I think, there as well. So
It was Dwayne.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was doing.
That was Dwayne, and it was his idea. So the actual countertops are the old benches. So he took the old benches, and they were still in good shape, and was able to cut them down and fasten them on the wall as a little countertop. And then he had the idea of putting some holes in there, so that way they can take a straightener or whatever, and then we've got a power strip underneath, so they have the ability to be able to go underneath. So.
A wife for daughters.
Yeah, so last summer we did the boys' locker room, and it turned out fantastic, and our guys did a great job. And so this summer we just transitioned over to the girls' locker room, and it looks great. I think they've got a few odds and ends to finish up down there, and then they'll be complete.
Dwayne's been coming in at like 5:30 in the morning to be able to work before the girls are using it for PE classes. So he's been really awesome in getting in and doing that.
Let's see if I've covered. Bottom left, that's where the old barn was that was tore down. That's now a gravel parking lot down there. Bailey, remind me why that is in the upper right.
Oh, that's the yellow mini fencing. So it's got a yellow safety railing, and we did Yankton North last summer, so this summer we did Yankton South.
Thank you for that reminder.
I had some parents that went to middle school at the house and really complimented the new counseling suite, and lots of compliments on the mural. Awesome. Anything else, sir?
That's it for Prop SG.
All right. On to new business. The first item on the agenda is the high school graduation date change.
So high school graduation is currently set for May 10th. Some things changed since you all approved the calendar in February. And I wanted to get this information in front of you as soon as possible to be as transparent as possible, because changing graduation we've got 10 months until graduation. It seems like a long time, but the kids said it earlier. People have started to make plans. So I needed to get this information out to you as soon as possible so that you could make a determination on what we want to do. Really what drove, Dr. Boyd, jump in here at any time if I misspeak, really what drove graduation being on May 10th was our desire to have kids in track able to get back in time for track. Our assumption was that sectional track was going to be on the 10th, and then the following week would be state track. Misha rolled their calendar, and now sectional track is on the 17th, and state track is on the following week. So we moved it for sectional track in order to allow those kids to come back, not out of convenience, because that would have put the kids out 7 total days. A whole week, and then plus the Monday and Tuesday of the following week. But it's really, really, I can remember when I was a high school teacher, those kids taking a picture up at state track with their graduation gowns on and sending it back because they couldn't come back. And that's important to us. They went through this process. They deserve to be here. And if we can adjust things to make that happen, I feel like that's appropriate. But Misha rolled their calendar. So that got Dr. Boyd and I talking about, do we want to look at doing something? Does it make sense? Do we want to leave it where it is? And I've talked to this board before about doing a different calendar for seniors because they get out early. Enter Senate Bill 727. A lot of times, and unfortunately more often than not, legislation is passed and legislators don't exactly know the repercussions or how school districts are going to have to adjust to deal with those repercussions. One of the repercussions of Senate Bill 727 is the 169 school day requirement. That's in place for this year. We have 169 school days. If you meet that requirement, next year you're entitled to a 1% bonus based on state aid funding. For us, that's between $47,000 and $50,000. It will be like that for 2 years. The following year, another 1%. The next year, it goes up to 2%. So that's a significant amount of money. In conversations with DESE officials and other superintendents, creating a separate calendar for seniors that allows them to get out early and us not have to count them absent would violate the 169-day requirement. And we would be forfeiting that $47,000 to $50,000. That's a significant amount of money. So it's important that you're aware of that. And this is one of the things that legislators, I don't think we're aware of. Creating that different calendar for seniors is one way for school districts not to take an attendance hit. So if we leave it on May 10th, we're going to count, how many seniors do we have?
About 135.
135 students absent for 7 days. That's going to significantly impact our average daily attendance. When we're used to, having them out 3 or 4 days. So that's the ADA impacts. You needed this information. My recommendation, based on the loss of that funding, based on the impact of our ADA, our average daily attendance, because those 130 plus kids are going to be counted absent those days, is to adjust it to the 17th, which would align again with sectional track. So, Dr. Boyd, did I miss anything?
Just a couple of things. It also would be in line with where we've been in years past. So this is not a deviation. Remember, we moved the calendar up. So this would put it back in line with where the graduating class was last year, the year before, the year before. The other piece that we traditionally remind students of down the stretch is graduation is an opportunity, and hopefully the kids in the class adheres to that opportunity. And we fill diploma covers, and I'm very proud of that fact. However, we reserve the right, if they don't follow through as a class and do what they're supposed to do, to leave diploma covers empty and bring them back after graduation is over, which would then take a look at those attendance days. So just because graduation happens doesn't mean that the seniors have completed and are done. And we have those conversations with seniors as we have senior meetings and go through that process. So when you look at vacations or things that potentially could happen afterwards, that parents have possibly planned for, that sort of thing, we always have that conversation with students. There's a possibility if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we'll leave diploma covers empty and bring seniors back after graduation is over.
I have a question. Are there any other spring sports that have something on May 17th? Do we know? I mean,
I don't think so.
like golf or baseball?
You would have to make it pretty far. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a potential for maybe baseball and softball, but you would have to make it significantly so
You would be going to
I
state.
still don't know that it would affect that Saturday.
Right,
Does that make
okay,
sense?
sure.
And is there something on the 10th right now? For the track? District.
track.
Either way, we're gonna have a
And-
track event.
Yes.
Yeah.
The district track meet typically runs longer than the sectional track meet. Dr. Taylor and I talked about that a little bit earlier today because they have more athletes that are participating. And so the sectionals is just finals. So that's one heat of everything. And so that meet is usually over earlier. So I know that we had talked about a 7 o'clock graduation. We will probably be able to adhere to that much closer on sectional weekend than we will be able to on district weekend. District, I want to say this past year, the last district event was over at like 6 or 6:30. So those kids having time to be able to get back for a 7 o'clock start for district track, probably not realistic.
Is it determined yet where those will be?
They have not. They look at those sites as they figure out classification numbers for track, which won't happen until the spring.
If we wanted to keep it close to the 10th of that weekend, couldn't we do it Friday? Or no, because they'd be with it, couldn't we do it on a Thursday or a Sunday?
So, yes, the absences are still going to apply, and we're still going to be violating that 169-day requirement for Senate Bill 727.
We've also, project graduation is the other piece that always is hanging out there with any day other than a Saturday, getting parents to be able to help chaperone and spearhead that and take that on. We try to look at that. If you move it to a Sunday, then parents are trying to stay up all night and then have an obligation to work that following Monday. So we've talked through that in the past.
On that Tuesday.
Tuesday, like 12,
The week
the
of the
13th.
No, probably the 7th.
The 13th.
Good job.
Tuesday, the 20th is the 169th day.
Oh, so Pat.
Oh, so
our last
even
day.
if they go till the 17th, there's an ADA hit maybe,
2 days.
right, an ADA hit, but that's different than the 7/27 169 day thing. You've always taken a bit of an ADA
Yes.
hit, right?
So you mentioned that if we were to go back, or I'm sorry, stay at the 10th, we would be forfeiting that 47 to 50,000 next year. But you mentioned an ADA impact. Is there any chance that would impact funds for the following year?
It will impact funds for this school year because our ADA, yes, our ADA will be reduced because our absences are going up 130 for those 7 days.
How much is the ADA per day per kid. I used to know it. I'm sure it's gone
So
up
during
now.
our work session, we actually worked it out, and it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,700 per student per ADA. Now, you have to do a little division,
By the day.
yes, to get there. So, our district is impacted less by foundation formula because we're 76% locally funded, but it's still an impact.
I was thinking it was 1,500, but 17.
So say that piece again on the third year of this Senate Bill 27, then it goes up to 2%. But you have to follow the rules. Is it that rollover thing? Like you have to have earned the 1% twice to get the 2%?
Great question. Nobody knows. Once again, not defined by the legislature. Figure it out. Somebody today at our superintendent's meeting said that one of the representatives is going to put an amendment for 727 to address some of the things that we've talked about and identify. Rumor is this was done because a particular school district went to a 4-day week and the representative in that region was not happy. So that's why this portion of Senate Bill 727 was added. Because of that, now every school district in the state has to deal with that 100. So there are MAAA schools who are going less than 169 that are now going back and adjusting their calendar to meet that 169 because for them, they aren't 76% locally funded. And I asked 2 of them today, and their number of 1% of the state aid is somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000. And so when it goes up to 2%, that hits them a little harder. So they're trying to scramble, and their calendars are done just like our calendar in February. Now they're trying to scramble and get the 169 to meet the requirement so that they can get the 1%.
I thought the requirement was 174.
Used to be.
In hours.
Used to be.
In hours.
So it's 1,044 hours.
Right. But what's that come up to in days?
Well, it depends on how long your school day is.
Oh, well, that's
But
true.
Each district has a different length of day.
But that doesn't matter, right? Because the bill says 169 days.
One question about the bill, though, because the bill says the act modifies the definition of school term by providing that the school districts located in charter counties or cities with more than 30,000 inhabitants, which we're not that, must have at least 169 school days. Unless they've adopted 4 days, then it's 142. But then further down the bill, it talks about the 1%, 2%. It doesn't really address the 169 there.
My understanding from Desi's interpretation is it's for every school district in the state.
Not just the first.
You're reading the summary, but in the actual full bill,
There's a different piece.
in the full bill text, it says that 1% would be paid for any district with the preceding year school term that provided for 169 school days or more. My question is, and I think you already answered this, you're saying definitely next year we decide to stick with the 10th. We're under 169 simply because the senior class won't be here 169. But you don't know if that would affect the following 2 years.
Right. Or
on from
tells me it would be year to year.
Correct.
But
Logic doesn't always prevail.
So I can understand how this could be construed as it was thrown on the board agenda to try and get something done. That was not the intention at all. It was put on the board agenda because this is how business is done, and I needed to make you aware of the consequences of changing this date. And it's not something that you can send out in an email. It needs to be in person, and you need to be able to ask questions and get clarification, and it's important. No.
You said something about graduating on the 10th, but bringing the seniors back for those 7 days.
5 days.
So that you didn't.
I mean,
How many seniors
that
you gonna get
depends
back?
on-
If you hold their, go ahead, Dr. Boyd.
Say that again.
How many are you going to get all your seniors back?
Well,
so
if they don't have a diploma, that means that we have not finished out grades, which means that we hold that piece of it accountable. So there's obligations that they have to come back and meet that piece of it.
Now that's a worst case scenario. People are acting like knuckleheads and not doing what's being asked of them. But Dr. Boyd every year has that conversation.
But we won't hit 169 days until the 20th. We're going to graduate on the 17th. So we're not going to get there anyway.
They're still going to be enrolled. We're counting them absent.
Like, we hit 169.
So creating the other, that was the component of creating the other calendar just for seniors, which was our intent when we set the date for May 10th. So when we asked you to approve that, it was under the assumption that we were going to be able to go in and create a different calendar for seniors. As Senate Bill 727 information came out, we found out if we did that, we violated the 169-day rule. So seniors, should the date be changed to the 17th, the seniors calendar would match our 169-day calendar. They would be absent the last 2 days.
Instead of the last 7.
And that would be okay.
Yes, instead of the last 7.
But we've never created.
Right now, we're not going to create the map set.
I'm sorry?
Right now, we're not going to create the map set. We're just, we're going to create a map set for 2 days.
They will be absent for 2 days.
But it'll be 7
And if they
days.
graduate on the 10th, they'll be absent 7 days.
It stays on the 10th.
No, if we count absent 7 days, they don't hit 169. But if we keep them here till, what'd you say, they graduate
17.
but it's okay to count them absent 2 days.
Because it's defined.
Yeah, if you just think about 130 kids absent 7 days versus 2 days, it's going to be a significant difference. So I don't want you to get confused about the senior calendar. If you leave it on the 10th, we're taking a 7-day hit. And the hope is, once again, we don't know what the intent of the legislature is, that we would qualify for the 1%. I'm not sure. We would take the ADA hit. The original thought was to create a senior calendar for less days so that we didn't have to take the ADA hit. We found out we couldn't do that because that would automatically violate the 169-day requirement.
I think that's also going to have implications on the 90 by 90 attendance piece too, which is calculated under MSIP and part of that side of it. So 2 days is significantly different than, if every senior is going to have 7 absences and then everything else from the semester.
So it's complicated. I needed to get in a room with you to be able to explain it and to answer your questions that you had. We transitioned to set the calendar this early for a reason, so people could plan. And the last thing that we wanted to do was to come back and change it. That's the last thing we wanted to do.
So our state funding is potentially 50,000 we'll lose, which could almost equate to a salary of an employee without benefits and everything,
Yes.
just the salary.
And I believe that extra money that we're going out on or leaving out must be allocated to salaries as well, correct?
That is correct.
The 50,000 has to be allocated to salaries.
So I'm sorry. It's not a hurdle that we wanted to cross, and I'm sorry to the senior class, and I'm sorry to families who have made plans already. It's not our intent. Like I said, that's why we set the calendar early. But this situation is something that you just can't anticipate.
We're not breaking any laws, but I do keep it down. Neither though. More laws.
Dr. Roy, if there are some families who say, well, we've made these plans and we're not changing them. We don't want to change them or we can't change them. And that student is absent that whole week, instead of coming to school, will that person, in all likelihood, still be eligible to graduate if they didn't have a crazy amount of absences throughout the whole rest of the year?
That's a possibility.
Maybe.
It would depend on a case by case basis and a case by case situation of what that piece looks like.
And what about athletes? So even if you graduate on the 10th, if we leave it on the 10th, if you're an athlete, though,
Your season may still be going.
Right, you just don't come to school, you just come to practice or go to the sporting event. Okay.
Which would be the same thing even on the 17th with
Right.
kids that are qualifying for the state track
Right.
meet. They would be in the same boat.
Right.
I don't like any.
So the 10th or the 17th, either one, would not be state track. That was the main reason for the entire thing.
That's the whole reason why we made
That every kid gets to graduation safe and sound. 10th is districts, 17th is sectionals.
And then state the next week.
State would be whatever, the 24th.
Yeah.
Guarantee leave at the 10th, giving up $47,000 to $50,000.
Guarantee we lose, we take the hit on ADA for those 7 days. We're not sure about. We're not going to do a different senior calendar because that violates the 169. So without doing that, we count the 7 days absent, take the hit on ADA. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the interpretation, that they were just absent the last 7 days and
into
And what?
the MSIP.
The attendance part of MSIP
Like, may not get our MSIP points.
for graduation. So that's 90%, 90%.
Attendance.
Right, but 90% of the kids are here 90% of the time.
So that would be a quarter of our student population.
Yeah.
But not 90%.
No, but it's a large percent. It'll affect that 90%.
Yeah.
So again, apologize, it was unforeseen. I would, Senate Bill 727 raises its ugly head, and I don't think that this is the end of it. I think we're going to be talking about Senate Bill 727 for quite a while. It was quite a large omnibus bill. Based on all of that information, my recommendation is to change it to the 17th.
Well, this is just another reason to have our legislative thing.
Well, it's an excellent example of passing a Christmas tree bill on the last day of session.
I would also like to say one thing I did miss was the governor did not have to sign this bill. And he is on his way out. And now we are left to deal with the ramifications of Senate Bill 727. You know, depending on who you talk to, but it's a $400 million to $700 million cost in addition, over and above what we currently have. So, you know, we've talked about this before. Is that going to impact our transportation funding at 75%? Is that going to impact our foundation formula fund? There are all kinds of things up in the air with 727. So.
Give us an easy
I could say this, I won't say the real word, but we're darned if we do and darned if we don't.
Can we table it for a month?
I don't.
Do you want to push it off another month?
I mean,
That was the reason I wanted to get it to you as soon as possible, so that people could, if you chose to change it, people could alter plans and maybe give a head start on what they need to do.
I don't think we want to table that.
I would prefer to make a decision tonight, but I am one.
I think we need to make it tonight as well. I will make a motion. If that's the point, I'll make a motion if that's where we're at.
A motion. Are you going to finish that?
A
Motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve changing the high school graduation date to Saturday, May 17th.
what's that? Oh, I'm sorry. So Jamie's made a motion to, I'm sorry, Mrs. Baloo has made a motion to approve the changing the high school graduation date to Saturday, May 17th.
If we do this and there are kids and if they make, or if they're there, let these kids know that, we're gonna change it. And that if you all have plans, it's gonna go by your attendance and your grades probably. Or your attendance anyway.
We're gonna work with kids. We're gonna do the best that we can to make sure that they have a memorable graduation and make sure that it's what they need it to be. So.
Well, and I mean, as much as you can tell we're struggling with this, the conflict with the state track meet isn't there. It's not any later than it ever has been historically. It is still May 17th is a reasonable amount of time to get out of school. It's just that everyone glommed on to May 10th and, was maybe made plans or was excited about it. But logically, when you look at the loss of funding,
That's where I'm at.
the loss of funding, and that it doesn't interfere with the district track meet, which is longer. I mean, there are lots of, I know it may be putting out some families though who made travel plans, and I'm not underestimating that. I get that. I understand.
I have a hard time turning away funding that we can get.
I think it's probably manageable. I mean, it's small enough that in my mind not to worry about. The kids, I think they're probably stand united when they feel we want the 10th. If you can make it happen, make it happen. And I always think I'm going to do what's best for kids. Sometimes leave the money and the politics out of it. And that's kind of where I always kind of put my mind. So.
I think part of my concern is that if it's $47,000 or $50,000, even though that's not a drop in the bucket, that's one thing. If it's $47,000 or $50,000 for the next few years, plus an ADA hit, plus an MSIP hit, that really worries me. And
Yeah, this year it's potentially one salary. What is it going to be next year if these are stacked on top of each other?
it's hard for me to ask our citizens to pay an extra 10 cents per $100,000 or whatever that amount is every year, and then turn away $47,000 or $50,000. And I am sorry if this vote doesn't turn out the way you want it to. I do still have a motion from Mrs. Baloo.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you got a question.
I don't think anyone, especially from me, because both my parents are teachers, and the three of us are both have parents involved in the school district. I don't think any students will be angry at you for explaining the fact that this is possibly 3 more teacher salaries. I feel like a lot of our problem is that this bill passed in May, and this has been going on for a while. The knowledge of this has been happening for a while. We could have been told this before. We could have been informed that maybe our graduation date is going to be changed from the get-go, and it would have been different.
I will certainly take that to heart. I will tell you this is a 172-page bill that was thrown together at the last minute, but that doesn't mean that we're not at fault here. So I apologize again if this doesn't go the way you want it to, and I'll apologize again if I'm the one handing you your diploma. Probably somebody else.
Mr. Goldberg?
Yes, sir.
I wonder if it would be appropriate, based on the fact that it's a school night, and before we take the vote, that these guys understand that they may excuse themselves after this portion, so that it doesn't look like sour grapes.
Thank you, Dr. Mercer.
Good.
Senior is not as fun as I thought it would be. Can I also say that if I had, like, I know that district, sectional, state, the only really big one influencing the decision was state, because state would be the one that's most likely to have us not be able to make it back. But regardless on if it's the 10th or the 17th, even if districts does go longer, there's still both big events on a day of another big event. And all throughout high school, like, I know that myself as an athlete, homecomings, like prom, I've always had something going on those days. So it's just regardless, there's a big event with another big event. And so timing isn't really a factor, because still short on time, whether it's districts or whether it's sectionals. And it's still not the best case scenario, whether it's districts or sectionals, because it's just kind of annoying and kind of disappointing either way.
But I think the real reason for this, for if we vote for the 17th, is because of the money.
Yes.
Right. But I do think at this moment is another opportunity to continue trying to think outside the box, because many schools have Sunday graduations and we keep not doing that because of Project Graduation. And I love Project Graduation. I don't want to go away, but yet maybe we could rethink that. What if we had graduation at noon, left for Project Graduation by 3, and ended it at midnight instead of staying all night? That's a sacrifice. That was not an all-nighter then, but then graduations wouldn't be on Saturday nights every single year when it's a state or sectional track meet, if it was on a Sunday. And some parents would gladly take Monday off. They take a vacation day and rest. I mean, people take vacation days. So that's for future. That's another thing, but that's something to consider, because every year this Saturday night graduation is a thing.
Where the mission calendar is going to get back to the point where we were trying to get, or where we thought we were getting for this school year. It's going to get back to the point where this is going to interfere with the state track meet, and we're going to be back in that situation.
Right.
So I have a motion on the table to change high school graduation to Saturday, May 17th. I will second that motion. Any other discussion?
We should have a roll call vote, or
We can. Would you like to request a roll call vote?
perhaps we should have a roll call vote.
Very well. So I have a motion and a second to change high school graduation date to Saturday, May 17th. David Bova, yes. Jamie Ballou?
Yes.
Josh Gettinger?
No.
Jerry Diesel?
Yes.
Martha Riesinger?
Okay, I know the money's important. I know the money's important. I see the, no.
You're a no. Okay.
Jim Kirschner? My gosh, Eric Bosler?
No.
So motion does not pass. Do you need anything else from us, Dr. Taylor?
No, sir.
All right, that's it. There you go. On to the summer of 2024 mission dead period for activities.
Thank you, kids.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I'm not opposed to revisiting it. I want to make some context. I believe you talked to Desi. I want to talk to Pamela about it. Pamela is on the State Board of Education. Her and I know each other. We work together at my employer. So I want to gather her thoughts. I'm not opposed to moving it, but I just wanted more time. So, sorry.
No reason to be sorry.
So, mission dead period must be 9 consecutive days in length. Begins on Saturday and goes through the following Sunday. The first allowable day of fall practice will be Monday, August 11th, 2025. You can see a letter from Dr. Nix in your packet, and he recommends that we set summer of, that should say 2025, mission dead period for activities August 2nd through August 10th of 2025.
Oh, 1 second. The letter says August 2nd through the 10th, but the motion we have is the 3rd through the 11th.
August 5th. Let's look at that.
Yeah. She's just keeping us on our toes.
That's from a Friday.
Be the 2nd through the 10th. That's a Saturday through a Sunday, right?
Okay. You want the 2nd to the 10th, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve August 2nd, 2024 through August 10th, 2024 for the summer of 2020.
Yes.
Do you
I
want
think
me
it was
to-
copied.
Let me correct my motion.
Right, do I have to amend,
Wipe
do you
that.
have a motion to amend it or something?
You can amend that, but he's making the motion correctly. Yeah. Josh's motion is accurate.
No, I have the date still wrong.
2nd through the,
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve August 2nd, 2025 through August 10th, 2025 for the summer of 2025 mission dead period for activities.
there you go. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Were you able to get that?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to go into the notes and I'll
I think-
just say, yeah, I'll just say,
Send it, figure it in.
motion is
I think
amended.
we're opening up Zoom anyway, so
Office second.
2025.
For August 10th.
10th, 2025.
Okay. Chrissy, I just put it in the notes.
Perfect. Hi, Courtney, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we have the redemption of $1.1 million principal amount of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2020.
So tonight we have Courtney Wegman from LJ Hart here to kind of discuss the reasons and the specifics of the $1.1 million prepayment. Courtney?
All right. So as one of the services that LJ Hart and Company has provided to the district ever since we were hired right around 10 years ago is annual assistance with both the Form A, which is the operating tax levy calculation, and the Form C, which is the debt service fund levy calculation. So the debt service fund levy calculation basically is there because unlike Fund 1, Fund 2, and Fund 4, you are not allowed to squirrel away cash within Fund 3 with the anticipation of being able to use that for future projects. So as a result, on an annual basis, we have this calculation, which has been submitted to the Missouri State Auditor. It takes into account the district's assessed valuation, the next 2 years of payments, because you're allowed to have 1 year of payments and then 1 year of reserve. Compares that to how much cash is on hand currently, as well as anticipated revenues from state assessed, railroad utilities, and then using how much money is on hand and what payments you have with that assessed valuation, it comes out with what levy is needed. So with the current assessed valuation, with the way things are and not having that prepayment, without having it, the district would need to lower its debt service fund levy by about 6 cents. So in order to keep the debt service fund levy where it is, generating sufficient revenue in order to pay all of your existing bonds, predominantly your Series 2022 and 23 with your bond issue you had a few years back, I am proposing a $1.1 million prepayment of the Series 2020 refunding bonds. By doing that, it's taking
approximately $300,000 in 1 year and $400,000 in 2 different years from that maturity and prepaying it in March of 2026. So although these bonds are callable in 2025, I have proposed prepaying them in 2026 because of some of the uncertainty, obviously, with revenues that are actually received from taxes, because there are no state aid money that helps pay for that service. It's all local tax dollars. So with obviously some of the situations that have occurred with Wholesome and Mississippi Line, I want to keep it in 2026 so that if something were to happen that I'm not anticipating with regard to revenue collected, if need be, you can rescind the prepayment. So that's similar to what was done, I believe it was 2 years ago when I was proposing the defeasance because of anticipating too much money. Well, obviously that didn't happen, so we had that rescission. So I'm just giving a little more leeway and insurance in case the revenues don't come in the way that they do come in. If we did it making the prepayment, the district will realize savings of right at $94,000 by prepaying 2026 instead of 27, 28, and 29. And that will allow the district to keep their 44% debt service fund money where it has been, which has been constant, I believe, the last 7 or 8 years. Does that help to explain where the need is for the prepayment? It's just not allowed to have too much cash in the debt service fund, unlike your Fund 1, Fund 2, and Fund 4.
Yes. Thanks, Courtney.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Courtney?
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Courtney. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye. Any other questions for Dr. Taylor now that Courtney's gone? Just kidding.
I'll motion to approve the resolution authorizing the redemption of $1.1 million principal amount of the general obligation funding loan series 2020, authorizing the publication of notice of redemption.
I have a motion and a second. I believe Mr. Gettinger is going to abstain. Everyone else, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. On to more joy, setting the tax rate.
So, information from the tax rate hearing earlier this evening is on the screen that you see. Fund 1, 2.9155. Fund 2, 0. Fund 3, 44 cents. And Fund 4, 5 cents for a total of 3.4055. For reference, and I know it's tiny, but to fit them all on there, I had to make them rather small. I have total tax rates for the 23-24 school year. Obviously, all school districts are going through the process we're going through now, so I don't have updated data. But this is all the information from last year, and you can see we are fourth from the bottom. I think I was comparing us to Jefferson County R70, which is 20 miles north on 61, and they're at $4.50 and we're at $3.40.
Fourth from the bottom means we are the fourth lowest, correct?
We are the fourth lowest in this group of schools.
Yes.
I mean, there are obviously 530 plus schools in the state of Missouri. I tried to grab some that were similar size in the MAAA, close to our region, just for reference.
And those are all closer. And they're all closer to.
One thing you didn't underscore earlier I went to is the voluntary rollback to the 44 cents on the debt service. We made that commitment during Prop SG, and so we're sticking to those guns. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have anything else? Make a motion on this. Okay. I'll make a motion to set the operating levy at 2.9155, the debt service levy at 0.4400, and the capital project levy at 0.500 for a total levy of 3.4055 for the 2024-2025 school year.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any personnel changes approved during closed session this evening will be provided in the draft minutes within 72 hours of adjournment. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn the open session, the regular meeting of the Board of Education in St. Joe County, our two school districts in Missouri.
Right. No, you can't, I mean, I don't know.
Martha said, we're good. You got that?
Yeah, so who's seconding it?
We're going to say Martha.
Oh, so Eric made the motion. Eric made the motion.
Is that all right, Martha?
Yeah.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Have a good night.